Hello there. While Boris's premiership is in the frame today, the Brexit battle is about to be refought in Westminster tomorrow. Be in no doubt, the Remoaner element of the House of Commons will do all they can to vastly water down or even derail the Northern Ireland Protocol Bill as it starts its journey proper through Parliament tomorrow. This is the bill that will directly challenge the power of the European Union and its illegitimate hold over part of the United Kingdom. Now, this bill is full of sweeping powers that aims to break the grip of the European Court of Justice over Northern Ireland, while redressing the huge diversion of trade that has occurred since Brussels and Dublin decided to weaponise the protocol in pursuit of their aims of destroying the UK. And this new bill, if enacted unchanged, would give ministers the ability to move fast and swiftly address any further problems that Brussels and Dublin try to force on us using the hated protocol. This is the bill that could be the start of saving the Tories from electoral oblivion, especially in the face of a YouGov poll that says only 10% of Brits think they have both the right policies and the right leader, and where 65% think Boris is the wrong leader and 53% say they have the wrong policies. And Boris is not helped by the news that he was prepared to be out of touch enough to accept £150,000 from a donor to have a treehouse built in Chequers for his son Wilf. That would be enough for a first-time buyer to purchase a real house in some parts of the UK, or at least put down a very hefty deposit. But just consider that in the two recent by-elections lost by the Tories, they still polled more combined votes than either the Lib Dems or Labour, a sure sign of heavy tactical voting. But there are also said to be 6 Tory MPs in red wall seats getting ready to defect, as well as new letters of no confidence in Boris flooding in. But this bill will only save the Tories if they can get it through intact, as I said. No deals with wobbling or out-and-out Remoaner backbench Tory MPs, no caving in to Brussels threats, no tinkering due to a Biden intervention. And it is this that will be the target for the pro-EU anti-Brexit Remoaners. To stand any chance of getting back into their single market comfort blanket, they will need to neuter this bill. So you will hear much screeching from every one of them about the breaking of international law by a law-breaking Prime Minister and the use of Henry VIII powers that allow other Acts of Parliament to be amended by ministers using secondary legislation. In fact, I'm wondering if any of the bookies have got odds on how many times these terms of breaking international law, law-breaking Prime Minister and Henry VIII powers will spring up during tomorrow's debate. Anyway, the Remoaners will hope that the more times they spout them, the more true the press, who are on their side anyway, and the public will think they are. And lo and behold, the first proposed amendment to this bill tabled comes from 45 or more Remoaners and says that this House refuses to give a second reading to the Northern Ireland Protocol Bill owing to the fact that it breaks international law. The bill also allows ministers to implement, by regulations, any new agreement with the EU that replaces the protocol, but with only limited parliamentary scrutiny. And that will not please the Remoaners at all. They will want any new agreement to be as pro-EU and as bad as possible for the UK as they can make it. But if any new deal ends up as a botch job like the protocol, then Brexiteers be on your guard. Because with Boris Johnson's penchant for trying to please everyone while pleasing no one, then the chances of a botch job are quite high. On a side note, this bill somehow affects the Queen's prerogative powers or her personal interests, as her consent for the bill to continue will need to be signalled at the third reading. Anyway, there will be plenty of fireworks and lots of faux outrage from the Remoaners. But this is just the start. It will be torrid enough in the Commons, but by the time the Lords has finished with this bill, it will be in tatters. And that's when the government has to stand firm, even if it means waiting a year and proroguing Parliament to get it through using the Parliament Act so as to bypass the Lords. Normally a government wouldn't need to go this far if they'd mentioned the proposed bill in their election manifesto. But Boris put in the Tory manifesto that this deal, including the protocol, was a great deal, and that we must move on, no more renegotiations. And a renegotiation is what Boris now wants to achieve, using this bill as a lever. At the end of the day, if Boris wants to save himself and his party, he's got to come out of the gate storming on this one. And now we move on to another ding-dong. That of the SNP and their MP Patrick Grady. After being resoundingly supported by the SNP leader in Westminster, Ian Blackford, and Blackford being given the vote of confidence by the SNP leader Nicola Sturgeon herself, Patrick Grady has suspended himself from the party and will sit as an independent, while a police investigation is carried out by the Metropolitan Police into an allegation of sexual assault in October 2016. Now, that complaint was made to the police by what they term as a third party, and say they will be investigating the allegation and contacting the victim in order to assess what further action is required. But as a result of his vocal support for Mr. Grady, questioning eyes have turned on Ian Blackford, and murmurings that it is he who should resign have started. And in true political fashion, Ian Blackford has now turned on Grady, saying he should reflect on the incident and that his future lies in the hands of his constituency party. I wonder how long it will be before Sturgeon does exactly that to Blackford. There's no friend like a politician, is there? All support when they think it's nicely private and secret, but once it gets out... The Scottish Conservative chair, Craig Hoy, said, "The abuser is gone, but the poison remains in the SNP, and the party leadership should be ashamed of the way they have handled this scandal." Sturgeon and Blackford ashamed? Really? Not sure they know what that emotion is. Hoy also said, "It's appalling that Nicola Sturgeon and Ian Blackford are still treating a disgraced MP with more sympathy than the victim who suffered sexual harassment." As I've said before, as far as I can see, every Scot is meant to shut their mouths for the sake of independence, especially those that work for the party. And Hoy finished his destruction job with, "Bullying Blackford must now face the repercussions he deserves and be sacked, so victims have confidence that they'll be taken seriously in the future." And that's the real point here. But Sturgeon has refused to take the requisite action. In fact, she said Blackford's words were unacceptable, while also giving him her full support. Talk about double-think and double-speak. Even the Scottish Lib Dems have waded in, with their leader Alex Cole-Hamilton saying, "At no point has Ian Blackford showed an ounce of leadership. He voiced absolute full support for Patrick Grady over the victim, allowed SNP whips to act menacingly and resorted to intimidation. Ian Blackford must go." With this and their abysmal record in all things, does the SNP leadership really think they can now dangle a dodgy, glorified independence opinion poll in front of Scottish voters and get them to believe it's the real deal, and then get them to vote yes without telling them what they'd be using for money?